Hi, I'm meteorologist Tony Petrarca alongside meteorologist Stephen Matrograno. Welcome to another segment of Beyond the Forecast. Steve's where we get nerdy. We just love talking, right? We love talking about weather. Of course, this is a segment that we hope to do throughout the year, where we talk about weather and answer weather questions and things like that. We did one not too long ago with TJ. We're highlighting the impending winter storm that's on the way for this weekend. It should be noted that we're doing this as of about 1:30 in the afternoon on Friday, so certainly beyond this, things can be changing. We're constantly, looking at new data that's coming in, Steve. But as you know, not an easy forecast. A lot of challenges here with the precipitation type and amounts, even being 24 or 36 hours out. You certainly want to check back with us during our evening newscast on Friday, and again with you tomorrow morning on Saturday to see how things play out.
Yeah, Tony, looking at the first question here, it's from Garen and Hope. You're looking at a flight back in Sunday night. Is this storm going to be impacting things with that? And we were just talking about the the timing of the storm, and it actually looks like things may be sped up a little bit further with this system.
Yeah, so we're thinking the arrival time of the snow now is going to be a little earlier on Saturday night. So arriving earlier, which means the bulk of it may actually occur during the overnight hours on Saturday, and then be more of a kind of a tapering mode Sunday morning and Sunday afternoon. Not sure where that flight is originating from, but was it coming into our Sunday night?
The question did not specify, but
I would say I'm flying back Sunday night.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming we're flying back to Providence. I would imagine that there could be some delays at that time, but probably not a cancellation. If if the height of the storm were really, continuing into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening while it'll still be snowing, so I'm thinking that flight is probably doable, but maybe with a delay.
Right.
And it's a trickle down effect. It's not just Providence and Logan and Hartford and whatever's going on down at LaGuardia, JFK, Philadelphia can sometimes trickle up the Northeast corridor up to here. So it's one of those things you want to check. We have a wealth of information on our website. One of them is the flight tracker. Yeah. I mean, if you haven't checked out our website before an impending storm, there is just, and it's a definite bookmark. You really want to, to bookmark it, and cancellations, delays, parking bans, flight delays, things like that, and of course, the updated forecast. So great question. I've got a lot of questions like that, including I'm supposed to go to a wedding on Saturday night, so the entire wedding party has been calling me constantly, and now I have to tell the bride and groom that it looks like the snow may arrive a little bit earlier Saturday evening, Saturday night. So we'll see how popular I am then.
So looking at that second question that we have on here is what is the difficult part in predicting snowfall totals, and that is from Tom in Narragansett. And there's just a lot of factors that go into.
Oh, we could spend an entire hour.
There's just so many different factors, especially here in southeast New England.
Yeah, I mean, we're a very unique area when it comes to weather, especially winter storms. Geography plays a big part. We don't have mountains in Rhode Island, but we do have high elevations to our north and west, meaning it's colder. We're surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean, of course, in which the water temperatures are running at about 40, 45 degrees. So you get wind off the water. It can warm places up like Newport, Narragansett, New Bedford, where your snow tends to either mix or change to rain. Whereas elevations north and west of Providence, you're going to have into Foster, Gloucester, Burrillville, elevation goes from 400 to 800 feet, which is it's not a mountain, but that modest rise in elevation can make all the difference between rain and snow. And it's a great question, because that's the difficult part with this forecast is we're going to have a rain-snow line setting up, and where that sets up obviously dictates how much snow falls, and the ocean plays a factor in that. We're going to get some winds drawing in milder air off the ocean. So new data suggesting that switch or mix to rain and sleet, Newport, Narragansett, New Bedford, especially south and east of the Route 95 corridor, may impact snow amounts. And perhaps, new data coming in, perhaps we may have to trim back a little bit, at least the amount south and east of the Route 95 corridor.
Yeah, and going towards the lower ranges of those numbers, of course, we've been talking earlier about
which we'll show you.
Yes, we'll show you that a little bit later on. And, looking at, again, snow really favoring north and west of Providence. I think we've been using that 95 corridor as a kind of a dividing line for now.
And especially if you want to use another reference point, let's use 295 as a reference point. 295 north and west, you've got a better chance of staying all snow you're a little colder. I just want to go. We have a number of graphics that are lined up in our computer system on our rundown. Let's switch over to. So that's the timeline. The one adjustment we would make on this is perhaps speed up the arrival time a little bit. Let's go to the next graphic. I'm not quite sure where. Okay, so just want to jump ahead. These are where the winter storm watches have been issued by the Weather Service. Quite simply, the areas in blue. That's where your potential is there for at least 6 inches of snow, perhaps more. So that's as of this time what the Weather Service has. They may adjust that as well, but notice it does not include areas south and east of Providence because the snow amount's anticipated to be a bit lower there.
Right, yeah, and looking at, again, further north and west you are, the better chance of seeing those, bigger amounts of snow, like we've been saying. And let's go to the next graphic here. Let's see what's up next here. Press the button, we can go forward here. Snowfall totals. Now,
let me take a peek at that. Oh, you know what? There's a little bit of problem with the color table, but you get the idea. That shading of blue, which is essentially north and west of Providence, northwest Kent County. Now that part of western Coventry, West Greenwich, on the Connecticut-Rhode Island border in western Kent, your elevation there is 400 feet. It makes a big difference. So we have, that still says 60. Okay, there we go. So 6 to 10. Right now I'm leaning toward, we're leaning to at least that 6 inch amount. Whether or not we can get to 10 remains to be seen, but feeling comfortable with at least 6 in that blue zone.
Yeah, I think the lower end of those ranges will be definitely more seen versus the higher end. But
so in other words, we got the 4 to 6 in the I-95 corridor. That includes downtown Providence. So don't pay attention to just the high number, but the range. So it could be as little as 4, which is significant, or it could be as much as 6. That 2 to 3, that 3 may be a bit too generous along. We were just talking about this along the South Shore.
Might have to knock that one down a little bit. But.
Yeah, and we've always said that the closer you get to the coastline, it was going to be more problematic getting a lot of snow, just because the temperatures are going to be warm, and there may be a mix of rain and some sleet. So and then there's the money graphic. We're going to hold this off until this is something. That we're going to start going forward. It's a very detailed accumulation forecast. Before we get to that, I know you have another question.
Yeah, this one actually it was intriguing to me because it actually brings up weather models, which we use a lot of the time. And this one is from Peter in Portsmouth. When using the American model versus the European model, which one do we prefer? And do they, better work for certain storms in certain scenarios? And we, of course, know there's all types of guidance and models that we use all the time. So
Peter's an at-home meteorologist. He knows all about the models. First of all, we use so many models, not just 2. We have like a dozen. And these models just predict what the atmosphere will do in 3 dimensions out in time. And then the ones that we use on a global scale for the entire globe, they're called global models, European and American model. It's almost like a competition, a group of scientists developed the European, a group of scientists developed the American model, which one is better. Each of them has their biases. Some work better in other situations than others. Some work better during certain seasons than others and in certain storm situations. So when you've been doing this for a long time, you get to notice what some of the biases are. Like, well, this model tends to be more warm biased, and sometimes the temperatures are too warm, or this model tends to track storms a little too far to the south and east. So when you know those biases, you apply that correction to both of these models. We use them in conjunction. In the perfect world, when they both agree, we're very comfortable in the Weather Center. But unfortunately, in this particular situation, both the European and American model have been kind of flip-flopping back and forth. And sometimes you really don't have a good handle as to what's going to happen until sometimes 18, 24 hours out. All the more reason why you want to check back with updates on 12 News tonight. And again, certainly with you tomorrow morning, because tomorrow morning may actually start off sunny.
Right.
So to see if things have to be adjusted. So the American and the European model, sometimes they're at odds, and other times they're in good agreement.
And sometimes, the Canadian model as well that we use, and there's all different types. There's the Japanese model, there's all types of short-range models or high-resolution models that we use that, are better used in a shorter range forecast.
And they update at certain times during the day. So the new model data is coming in right now as we speak. That's why I have the laptop open. And all the more reason why, while obviously we've shown you a forecast for the accumulations, you don't want it to be the last forecast that you see. That sometimes, unfortunately, you get last-minute updates and changes. They'll still feel fairly confident that the further north and west you go, you're going to have enough snow to shovel and plow in your driveway Saturday night and into Sunday.
And that actually brings us into one more question that we have from Doreen in Greenville. Will I be able to build a snowman? And that actually is a good question. It's fun. We all love that. It has been quite some
The most important question.
Yeah, I know, right? It's been quite some time since you've seen some snowfall that is you have enough to build a snowman.
Well, snow has weight, and sometimes it's dry, and sometimes it's heavy, and that's based on the water, the water content. This will be a wet, sticky snow. It's easy to compact together, but also the problem with wet, sticky snow is that it can cling to tree limbs and power lines. So where you get the most snow, which is in the northern part of the state, especially in the northwest part of the state, it'll be somewhat wet and sticky. So with gusty wind and what we call a snow load on the limbs and the power lines, it could be some isolated outages. I don't think it's widespread, but something that we'll keep an eye on.
Definitely, for sure, yeah. And I think there'll be a good chance in Greenville to build at least maybe a baby snowman with the snow that we're looking.
Yeah, Newport, Portsmouth, Narragansett, New Bedford, it might be a little harder. Yeah.
And I have one more question. I'm just going to open up my phone here for a second. This is from...
First of all, we got so many questions, we can't get to them all today.
Right, yeah.
But thanks to everybody for asking questions and things like that. But we're going to... wait. Before we get to your question, kudos to TJ.
Oh yeah.
So our goal is always to be hyper local, right? I mean, so we showed you that accumulation map, and you can kind of infer, okay, this is what my town is going to get. But you go to those color bands, and sometimes you wonder, am I on the boundary between this amount of snow and that amount of snow? So, alphabetical order. Talk about hyper local. What the range should be. In each town. So that's a lot to digest, and we'll certainly show this on TV, but it'll be on our website, so you can spend more time on it. So and it clearly shows the different ranges in the different cities and counties, and then Southeast Mass, if we go to the next one.
Yeah, actually the next one shows that as well. And again, focus on these ranges because we have these numbers here, but as we've been just mentioning through this entire video, is showing that the numbers were kind of leaning towards lower end of these ranges, and again, these may be tweaked over time. So check back with us.
This is the latest call as of 1:30 Friday afternoon. We may adjust these a little bit, but the general theme I think is still there. So I think from here on out, next time we get snowstorms, even though they're rare, it seems like lately, we'll take it a step further and kind of go town by town, because while the accumulation map is obviously very important and very informative. When you live in a smaller state in the country, sometimes it's like, well, what town is which? And then that sort of solves the problem. And we can certainly do this, take this a step further, do it with rainfall amounts.
Or winds as well.
Strong wind gusts. And that leads to the next question.
It does,
ironically, I want to talk about a roller coaster ride. We have a question about the next storm for
middle of next week.
Or early in the middle of next week, and that's what?
Yes, this is from Susan in Cranston, and she's actually referencing our next storm, which is in the middle part of next week. This looks to be, as of right now, more of a rain and windstorm coming to us. And her question was basically, how bad is it going to be? And also talking about the wind speeds and plus the factor in with the rain as well. Is it going to be like the previous storms? Could it be a little bit worse? And I was actually intrigued by this next system as well, just looking ahead of things, that this next storm could potentially be a little bit more impactful when you factor in all the rain we've seen, plus the strong gusty winds on top of whatever snow falls from this next system.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to watch rivers and streams once again, rivers like the Patuxent River. The forecast now for the Patuxent with this next system next week is that it could get to minor or moderate flood stage. So this next storm looks to be warmer. It may start off as a couple of hours of some wet snow later Tuesday night, goes over to a wind-driven, heavy rain, strong southerly wind, and some of our computer models are hinting at wind gusts between 50, 60, 65 miles per hour. So a completely different storm. And we talked about this when we did our winter weather outlook about a month ago, that the East Coast would be very active with storms, which we've seen, but they would be both a blend of occasional snowstorms, but also rain and windstorms. And so far, that has been playing out due to an El Nino year. And that's the situation for the middle of next week.
Yeah, the pattern looks to really stay strong with active storm pattern through the rest of this month into even February. So it's going to be a busy time for us going forward. Yeah,
we're going to wrap it up real quick, but one other thing, we're seeing signs of perhaps January being not only stormier, or perhaps colder, because December was pretty tame. So wrapping things all up, the best advice I can give you is that this is a very location-dependent storm. It's not the same for everyone. The bigger chance of more snow is the northern part of the state, especially the northwest part of the state. Don't be surprised in your town and community to see a little rain mixing in with the snow. It's going to limit the snowfall amount. So it's not just snow, it's a snow, sleet, and rain system. Again, Saturday evening, Saturday night, and lingering into Sunday. So wrapping it up, again, WPRI.com, a wealth of information on there. We're constantly updating it. And of course, tune in to 12 News this evening, Friday night, and with Steve on Saturday morning to see how things play out. But it's a weekend storm, so it makes things a lot easier.
Definitely does, for sure.
All right, that's our latest edition of Beyond the Forecast, Beyond Weather. And we thank you for your questions and tuning in. And as always, check back with our latest forecast.